Welcome to our 2022 City Budget Community Dialogue. And when I say our, I am referring to everyone who's here today to participate, speak, or listen. I'm SURJ. I'm a community planner with Social Planning Toronto, and I'll be your MC for today. So before we begin, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. Social Planning Toronto works with diverse communities and neighborhoods across the geography of Toronto, also known as Toronto. SPT honors the land that we are on and the current stewards of this land, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We acknowledge the historical relationship between the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy who have lived in this territory. Toronto is also home to many Indigenous nations from across Turtle Island, including the Inuit peoples and the Métis Nations. The 6 boroughs of Toronto are covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. Many of us, such as myself, a racialized daughter of immigrant parents from colonized lands, have come here as settlers, immigrants, or refugees in this generation or in generations past, while some of us have also come here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Living in this territory, we all have treaty rights and responsibilities, and a role to play in upholding the original commitments under which these treaties were signed. This land is also part of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, an agreement between Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee to peaceably share and care for the land, water, and resources. Indigenous nations and all settlers, including each of us, are invited into this agreement in the spirit of respect, peace, and friendship. And just so everyone knows, SPT is working towards centering, building, trusting relationships, and supporting actions for which Indigenous communities and Indigenous organizations have been advocating for many years. And this includes adapting our work processes and policies to align and amplify the Truth and Reconciliation Committee's call to action and continuously learn from Indigenous wisdoms, truths, and ways of knowing. This land acknowledgement is a work in progress, so it will be adapted over time to reflect our continuous learning and commitments. Thanks. So every year, Social Planning Toronto hosts a number of community events in response to the city's budget. And we also provide a budget analysis. And that's the purpose of these initiatives, are to support our partners and community members to influence the city budget. So why does the city's budget matter? It determines how our city's services, programs, and strategies get funded. And this has a direct impact on everyone living in Toronto. So today's community dialogue is an alternative platform for community members and residents to have a say in what we want to see in this year's budget. So you might remember the People's Budget platform from last year, which many of you were a part of. So this is a similar initiative. We want to know, we want the city's budget engagement process to be more inclusive. And this is kind of a space to try a new model and hopefully talk about alternative budget models in the future and work towards this collectively. So at the moment, there's a lack of meaningful leadership and action by the mayor and council to address the stark inequalities and injustices facing residents across our city today, which will come as no surprise to most of you. And just to share a quote from our City Budget Watch blog that was developed by our senior researcher, Beth Wilson. The COVID-19 pandemic has revealed and exacerbated deep and long-standing social, racial, and geographic inequalities in our city. Our communities are struggling, which is proven by mounting crisis in the area of housing, homelessness, food security, mental health and addictions, childcare, transit, policing, and more. So we need bold leadership to tackle this year's budget, and we need strong action from Toronto City Council that recognizes the urgency of this moment. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. So we've done the introduction. Our executive director, Jin Ha, at Social Planning Toronto, will be presenting our budget analysis, which is an overview of the budget. So the good and bad and ugly of the budget. And then we're going to talk about how to get involved in the budget. We'll do a quick poll after that, an in-session poll to ask folks what they want to see in this year's budget. We're going to also invite Jane Finch Action Against Poverty and Stand Up for Racial Justice, just to give us a quick overview of their budget demands. And then we're going to open it up to the floor and invite, we're going to invite speakers, any of you here today who want to present your budget demands, to do so. And if you can right now put in the chat whether you would like to be a speaker, that would be great. We do have Jared from Social Planning Toronto who's keeping track of the speakers list. And it would be really great if you could include your ward or counselor as well. That way, when we summarize our collective demands today, we can know who your counselor is and state that in the summary that we send to the budget committee. So now I'm going to invite Social Planning Toronto's Executive Director, Jin Ha, to present a budget overview. And if you have any questions about today's budget analysis, you can put them in the chat and one of our staff will do our best to answer them, or we will follow up with you in an email. But watch out for those answers throughout the meeting, because we actually have our expert on the budget, Beth Wilson, will be kind of monitoring the chat when she can later on and answer wherever she can. All right, so with that, I'll invite Jin up.
Great, thanks, SURJ. So as SURJ mentioned, I'm going to provide just some highlights from our preliminary analysis of the budget, and talk a little bit about some of the key dates associated with the city budget and how you can get involved. So we are still in the early days. The budget was released a week ago on January 13th, and there are many aspects of the budget that we're still learning about and reading up on. So we will continue to get you connected, and we'll share ways that you can stay in the loop about our analysis as well as partners' analysis. The budget committee is meeting this week, including today is the last day. And so we're in the budget committee, they're talking about more details on each of the division and agency budgets. So we're still hearing more about some of the specifics and reading through all the documents related to the city budget. And as SURJ has mentioned, our resident city budget expert, Beth Wilson, wasn't able to join the beginning part of this forum, but will be able to join us later and hopefully help answer some of the questions. Next slide, please. So in the midst of an intense fifth wave with the Omicron variant, a very cold winter, and residents across the city struggling with homelessness and housing. This is the Bloor Night Bus here, where folks are obviously struggling to find shelter space. Addictions and mental health, struggling with food security, childcare, transit, all kinds of challenges related to finding and keeping decent work, and struggling with all the tough decisions we all have to make to try to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe and healthy, especially Indigenous, Black, racialized, low-income, disabled folks, women, single parents, and those living in the outer suburbs who have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So all of that happening, what do we need? We need governments to see these crises for what they are and to meet them with heart, bold leadership, new and creative solutions, and to build upon the amazing strengths and assets in communities. Instead, what we are seeing this year is another status quo budget from the city. So next slide. I'm just going to give you some very high level highlights from our analysis on the budget. I don't know if someone heard that I'm looking for the next slide, please. And then we'll open it up to the floor. And so many of you have probably already started to look at some of the city budget details. It includes a 1.4 billion hole. So that's in assumed revenues to cover COVID-related impacts and stresses that we are assuming will come from the provincial and federal governments. It'll cover COVID-related impacts as well as two smaller amounts related to social housing operations from the province and for refugee services and shelters from the federal government. We certainly think the city could be bolder by including even more assumed revenues given the crises that we're facing, to cover many of the urgent issues that we are seeing on the Bloor Night Street bus and all across our city. We just don't have the kind of budget that is going to help homeless folks access safe, non-congregate shelter space and access the kinds of services they need to deal with the struggles that they're facing. This budget continues to prioritize low property taxes as it has done for many years. It's tied to the increases in rate of inflation. So it looks a little bit more this year because the rate of inflation is higher, but it is still a status quo property tax. And we're seeing no new revenue tools to finance critical services despite the crises and the great challenges facing our city currently. Despite all the problems and challenges and the calls for defunding of police, we are seeing an increase in the police budget this year of about $25 million. And then we're also, we're trying to find out more, but we're seeing about $500 million, $494 million, that's identified as cost saving and offsets from city revenue sources. So we are trying to find out more about what that specifically entails. It probably is somewhat related to service shutdown during COVID, but we want to understand more. We've heard from the city that there have been no cuts to services, but we just want to understand where did that $500,000 go, or where did the savings come from? So, you know, I think many of us have been talking about the fact that we have seen a decade of austerity budgets from the city. We would be in a better situation right now to deal with our urgent issues or the urgent community needs if we had taken more responsive and responsible actions sooner with our city budgets, with the priorities, with the revenue tools that the city had available to it. And, you know, we recognize that the city can't do it all, and they do rely on provincial and federal support, as do all municipalities across Canada. But we really believe that the city needs to be doing better and can be bolder in terms of the powers and capacities that it has currently. I wanted to talk a little bit about the poverty reduction strategy. Excuse me. We are seeing again a delay, missing from this year's budget. The Housing Secretariat, it's been years of delays. It's a cornerstone piece for accountability on our commitment to housing as a human right. So I think the city is saying that they need to plan that out further, but we've been waiting quite a while. We are also seeing no funding available for the expansion of the Fair Pass program, the phase 3 of the Fair Pass program. So they're still working on phase 2 throughout this year. And we really, really want to see a commitment to making sure that phase 3 is funded. We're disappointed by the continued delays. We understand that, you know, that the pandemic has had an impact, but these delays are having an impact on low-income communities across the city. And this is a critical investment for transit equity. We are also, you know, it looks like there is incredible underfunding of critical services for people who are experiencing homelessness, trying to survive the Canadian winter during a pandemic, during a highly contagious variant. There's, as far as we can tell, the latest numbers are 51 outbreaks in shelters as of January 17th. There's a rise in violent incidents in shelters. There's an opioid crisis, and we need real substantial investments to address this crisis. And then I want to just talk briefly about the new and enhanced funding. So, you know, of a city budget, in terms of the tax supported operating budget of the city, that amounts to $13 billion. We are seeing only $135 million for new and enhanced programs and services. There's a list of what gets covered in these new and enhanced programs. It includes childcare, long-term care reform, crisis response, mobility, community development, and modernization initiatives. So we're still looking into the specific details of all of these, and more details and analysis on the new and enhanced, and what might be missing from the new and enhanced will be coming to you in the coming days. So, I mean, mostly going to just wrap it up there with these highlights. And then also I want to say that we also have some concerns about the engagement process around the budget. You know, this happens every year, but the timelines from the time of budget launch, so this year, January 13th, to the time we need, all of us, to engage with each other and to get ready to depute next week, January 24th and 25th, is very, very tight. And in fact, you need to meet the deadline of this Friday in order to register to depute at the budget committee next week. And then we're concerned about the even shorter timelines. I believe it was about 3 days that communities had to review the police budget, which was released earlier this month. And we also finally have some concerns about the lack of community engagement in the equity responsive budgeting process. It's a shifted process this year. So, you know, we're in this moment where we are facing multiple crises and we need real leadership, creative leadership, bold action from all levels of government, including, and especially right now, Toronto City Council. And this budget does not reflect what the city needs, and the process does not build on and optimize community and resident engagement. So I just want to wrap up by sharing a bit of details on the budget process and timelines. So we'd already talked about how the budget was launched last week. The budget committee is meeting this week. By Friday, you have to register if you want to depute to the budget committee that's meeting next week on the 24th and 25th. And then the budget committee wraps up over the next couple of weeks after that. And then the budget goes to the executive committee for review on the 11th. And then there's a final vote at City Council on the 17th. We have a number of events coming up. We hosted an event on Tuesday. There's today, you're in the community forum now. There's a number of events this evening with the Scarborough Civic Action Network, in Progress Toronto with Mike Layton. There's town halls, and there's many more events that we're starting to put into our Budget Watch blog on the SBT website, which we'll share and perhaps share in the chat as well. If you aren't already part of the SBT Budget Watch list, please join. We'll have information on that as well. And that's all of best great analysis that goes into this, and we'll keep you up to speed and share our analysis as it emerges, as we're learning more and more about the details of the budget. And just want to share a bit of the specifics on how you can get involved with the deputations next week. So there's an email there. We'll put that in the chat as well, or you can call. And again, you have to register by this Friday at 4:30 p.m. We'll share some details on the budget, the deputations. And I think we have one more slide on the deputations talking about what you need to. I think you can submit comments as well. That's right. And or a letter to your counselor. So I will pass it back now to SURJ. Thanks, everyone. And I think Beth has joined. So if there's any questions specifically around the budget, both her and I can answer.
Thank you, Jen. That was great. So we're gonna launch a quick poll just to get a sense of your top priorities for this year's city budget. And the first question's a multiple choice, so don't feel like you need to prioritize between like a few options. You can click as many options as you want on the first question. And the second question is just open-ended. If you wanted to add any more budget concerns you have or asks, you can do that. And so we'll be compiling this, your feedback and submitting it as part of our collective submission to the budget committee. So I'm going to launch that poll right now. Just give me a second. Is everyone able to see this? Put a thumbs up, maybe share a thumbs up, or yes. Okay, great. Amazing. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's two questions. And I just want to share that I know that, there's a lot missing from this poll. So in terms of priorities, like please feel free to elaborate. If you think something's missing, you want to see more of something that we didn't mention, we'd love to hear from you. So we'll take a couple minutes to fill this out. And for the short answer, you can just list if that's easier for you. So far, we just have 3 folks who've participated. So for anyone who's coming in late, we're actually engaging in a poll. Oh, it looks like the poll is disappearing. That is interesting. Okay, let me see if I can relaunch. Is anyone able to see this again?
Yep.
Thumbs up, yes. Okay, great. So for anyone who voted in the last poll, if you wouldn't mind voting again, that would be great, because I don't think we'll be able to get the results from the previous one. All right, so I'm still seeing just 3 people participating in the poll. So I would encourage as many folks as possible to
We're having
fill
some
that
people
poll
in
out.
the chat. Sorry, SURJ, we're having some people in the chat that don't quite have access to it yet. They're just mentioning.
Oh, okay. So let me read off. I'm going to read off the multiple choice, and you can feel free to answer in the chat. So what are your top priorities for the 2022 Toronto City budget? Increase funds for shelters, supports for homeless community members, and to support communities living in encampments. To fully fund the Transform TO Net Zero strategy, which is the city's climate strategy. To increase funding for harm reduction services and supports to address the opioid crisis, to increase funding and supports for seniors, programs and services, as well as long-term care homes, to defund or reallocate the police budget towards community services, mental health supports, and alternatives to policing. Improved and more affordable and accessible childcare. Implement a range of new revenue tools, which includes increasing property taxes, vacant home tax, to support our budget. Increase funding for TTC transit operations and fully fund the TTC Fare Pass, which is a program for low-wage workers. Increase funding for community grants, and fully fund the poverty reduction strategy. So these are just options, but if you want to put in the chat, if you have any other priorities or demands for this year's 2022 city budget, you can share it in the chat. And later on, we'll be also sharing a Google form that you can send us in case you didn't get a chance to provide input or speak today. You'll definitely have that opportunity, and I'll also share my email afterwards so you can send me your comments. So I'm gonna share this poll now. We can see here that increased funds for shelter supports for homeless community members and supporting communities and encampments was the top answer. And then we have increasing funding to the TTC and the Fare Pass program. And then we have that tied with defunding the police budget or reallocating the police budget towards community services, mental health supports, and alternatives to policing. Great. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. And yeah, we'll hear more about these issue areas from you all, actually, who are experts in all these areas. So I will now hand it off to, I'm going to invite Sam Tecle from Jane Finch Action Against Poverty, as well as Anna Lipmann from Stand Up for Racial Justice. SURJ is the acronym as well, and JFAAP is the acronym for Jane Finch Action Against Poverty. So where is Sam?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, okay, this is great. I guess we got up on the speakers list early. Thank you so much for having Anna and myself have a little bit of time here. So really quickly, we're here to speak, I think, about regarding the the budget allocation that we're seeing constantly over and over again to the Toronto Police. And I just wanted to start, we have such a very short time, but just to hit some key points on why we believe the funding that's allocated to police in its entirety could be totally reallocated. But if we need to start at 10 and 20% to begin to defund, that is something we want to really imagine and think about, right? So as a signal to us of what we've been seeing, or what a small win we might take, is that the budget for the Toronto Police, the previous budget, actually reflected a 0% increase, which was, the first time in so long. This is amazing. So I think what was happening in the world, the streets, the kind of point of what we were thinking about, the reimagining of not only the philosophy of policing, but actually of society itself. So what I want to maybe have us all think about, in the points to really drive home, is that this is much bigger than a budget consultation when we're talking about policing, right? This is actually an opening to admit that policing doesn't operate the same for all of us, right? We live in neighborhoods where police are there. We don't call the police to come. They are always there. They do not equal or introduce safety in our communities, right? So this idea of defunding or a budget reallocation is to reimagine not only the philosophy of policing and its usefulness in our society, but the idea that a society should be based in violence, in locking away poor and working class people, in hiding folks who might not be adjusting to a very sick society in prisons, right? We do this a lot. So I want us to just imagine or think that the idea of thinking about policing is both an acknowledgement that policing doesn't work the same for all of us, especially Black folks, racialized folks, Indigenous folks, and we have reams of data about that. They don't introduce safety in our lives. And it's actually an opportunity for us to say, what is the kind of society we all want to live in? And I think that idea of defunding the police, we should always remember, is a compromise on the way to something more important, right? To thinking about or imagining, even in the opening of abolishing the police, and that we have whole subsectors of our society that already operate in these ways. We don't call the police because we like living. So we don't call the police because that idea, or that white woman in Central Park, when she called the police, she was activating a particular kind of force in people's lives. So that's why where we're from, we don't call police a service. We still call them by their old name, the Toronto Police Force. So I'll just pass it on to Anna. Thank you so much for a little bit of space to talk.
That was amazing. Sam said he was gonna wax poetic, and he did. So yeah, just to jump on that, like I completely agree. SURJ itself is calling right now for a campaign we're mobilizing around with co-partners about defunding the police by 50%. But I think to us, and just as Sam said, like, this is not a budget issue. It's about how we build thriving and safe communities for everyone. And I got to fill out that poll, and let me tell you, like, I feel like I want it all, right? And that's because I don't see all that stuff as different. And part of reimagining safety, and why, people like me and Sam get to do that, and maybe people in shelters don't, is because if you're not having your basic needs met, and if you're being criminalized for like systemic injustice and like poverty in your circumstances, like, that is not a good society. And that is the police that we currently have. So when we're thinking about like, why don't we have more money for anything else? It's because we keep stuffing it into the police budget, and we keep giving them $1.1 million. That's what they're asking for this year. About like, no, because we all think that like policing equals safety, and absolutely for some people, like, because of their lived experience, that safety in policing looks different. But I think we all as people want safety. And for some of us, like, because we don't have those basic needs met, we don't have the time to reimagine these worlds where like safety comes in other forms. And I think that's where like on the ground, like supporting for police comes from. You know, I'm white, as is SURJ. I don't think I'm like the majority of the folks in this room, but I come to this because I grew up in a very unstable home. And from the ages of 13 to 18, like I spent most of the time in handcuffs being babysat by the police. And when I think about how much those cops got paid to do that, instead of like someone actually offering me like mental health supports, food, housing, like, damn, this system is like, you know, I want to say it's broken, but it's built that way, right? And, you know, I have the privilege of sitting here today and telling you all this and imagining safety with you, but I have to recognize that like it's my personal stake in this that brings me to the conversation, but my position and like who I am as a white person, like I live in Kensington Market, Ward 11, and I think there's too much police here, but when I walk outside, I know they're not over policing me, right? So like we all have to find our mutual stake in this, but recognize that we all, because of who we are in our lived experiences, we bring different forms of power and privilege to it. And we all can do in some way the work of like reimagining safety and dismantling communities. And maybe if Sam has more thoughts, we'll end it there.
Yeah, I'll just really quickly say that the exciting and I guess sparking part of all of this was that the ideas that were, you know, really underground and just whispered were said in public. So the idea of, you know, defunding or abolishing police is really a charge or a call for us to imagine a whole different kind of world. And like, that's really exciting. And it's also the idea that we might be able to take care of each other in different ways. Yeah. So I think that part is the part we can't let, you know, city processes or provincial processes take that away from us, no matter how much they want to revert back to a kind of norm where, you know, it was all about just retractions and us losing every game. So I don't want them to take that. And I, you know, it's always funny when our mayor talks about detasking. So I don't know about you, but at my job, when I do less, I often get paid less. I don't get raises if we're going to take out police, the mental health calls out of the purview of police, because the Ontario Human Rights Commission tells us, it teaches us from their work, that if Black folks are in mental health crisis and encounter police, they're 20 times more likely to die. That's an incredible stat, right? And when and I will finish here, but when this disastrous policy of putting fully armed police officers in uniform in schools in mostly Black and racialized and then, you know, Indigenous neighborhoods, this was a disaster, and we said as much at that time. And Chief Blair, now minister at the time, said, I don't have social workers, I have police officers. So why do we ask police officers to do things they know they're not trained for? So we can't constantly do this, especially, to be honest, if it's the same people that are dying. Yeah. So we're gonna need all of us to kind of hold on to that hope that there's something else might be possible. So that's me.
Thank you, Sam and Anna. And I just wanted to ask a follow-up question. If you could share like your one key demand for this year's budget, what would that be?
I think Anna said it perfectly, 50% reduction in the police budget and seeing direct infusion of cash to all of the kind of care services that we've all mentioned in that survey, right? So affordable housing, mental health care supports, the list goes on, right? Shelters need to be way better funded and resourced. And we're talking about, of course, the opioid crisis for most precarious folks. So these are the kinds of things I think we would like to see that happen immediately and directly, and we still think it's entirely possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for speaking so candidly about this issue. And we know that, you know, there's a 0% in the increase in the police budget last year, and this year they're proposing 25 million more. It seems like, you know, one step forward, two steps back. So there's a lot of potential right now for us to influence this budget in various ways. It's not just through the formal budget process, but through direct action, through organizing. There's a number of campaigns going on right now that you can definitely look up. And if feel free for anyone who is doing organizing around the budget, please feel free to share any of your actions in the chat as well, and SURJ as well at JFAAP. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives today. And yeah, we're going to open up to the floor now. And we got some great inspiration from you both. So thank you. Awesome. So Jared's gonna paste the speakers list in the chat while we're waiting. And if you can just give us a few seconds to set up. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so everybody who has signed up today, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. We'll have a timer. Mary from SBT is going to help timing. You'll see both Mary and I do this when you have 30 seconds, like a T. If you can't see it, or if you have any sort of accessibility requests, if you need to, if you want to speak first and you can't see the chat and you're not able to let us know in the chat, would you be able to unmute yourself now and let us know that you'd like to speak? I know some people might be on the phone, so just wanted to give a chance for anyone on the phone to let us know if they'd like to speak today. Okay, I think not today, but we'll ask again just in case we missed anyone. And so just so everyone knows, we won't tolerate any disrespectful, oppressive, or discriminatory comments. So if we hear them or we see them, we might have to ask you to leave. And yeah, just we know that this isn't like this, you know, this is just a very limited time to speak. So this is not the only opportunity to do so. We will be sharing a little Google form that asks about your key budget demands that we'll also share with the budget committee. And you're also welcome to email me if you didn't get a chance to speak today. But I have a good feeling everyone will be able to. So we will invite the first speaker up. Just one moment. So Minakshi Das from Ward 7.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Minakshi from Jane and Finch community and faculty member of York University. So my concern is with my priority is for defunding the police, like as already said some of the community leaders, but my priority is the pandemic related benefit at the moment, like the direct financial benefits to the community people. So far as I said that it's more of community financing, like the budget should focus more on the community financing, so that, you know, we can have with that direct benefit for the kids to less down the hunger and then the poverty level of the community people. Then the other priority at the moment is for freezing of the rent, that the homelessness is increasing. It's because of the high rent that the people can't provide. And the third one is the economic generation, like for that's in my perspective is that full-time jobs to the newcomers and to the immigrants. So so that, you know, they can fight off the pandemic level situations. And obviously, more benefit to the school community, so that the children will be benefited out of that mental health, hunger, and then the other related, you know, the violence related situations in home. So basically it's poverty reduction strategy, you know, funding on the poverty reduction strategy, and thereby directly benefiting to the community resources and financing to the community programs more to develop the communities out of poverty, hunger, violence. That's it.
Thank you so much, Minakshi. All right, next we have Tina Conlan, please.
Thanks, Soraya, and thanks for everyone who's here. I'm just going to mention just one thing, and that is that the City Council unanimously approved the creation of non-police-led response to calls involving individuals in crisis in their June 29-30, 2020 meeting. And they identified 4 different pilots across the city. There has been no action in any of those pilots. And then we realized there was no budget allocation for them. This is not really a defund the police project, more like let's fund it to where you promised. You promised non-police involvement in crisis calls. Meanwhile, the police has increased their budget. So what I just want is, let's put the money where you promised. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Great, next we have Tam. Tam, are you here today? Okay, I'm not sure if Tam's here, but let us know when you're back. And we're gonna just go freestyle now. Would anyone like to speak? Please put up your hand, if so, with your emoji, or unmute yourself and let us know you'd like to speak, or you can say in the chat as well. So I see Anna Kay. Anna Kay, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Sharoja. Thank you. I didn't come planned to speak, more of kind of listen, but I think, you know, after hearing some of the speakers and, you know, when I really think about the city budget, I know last year I did a deputation and around, you know, what defund the police is, and I know it's a topic for now, but or of concern, but I think that there was a lot of things, especially for the last 2 years, that have really in this climax have really thought about how we as a society can reallocate some of these funds that are going into policing, because at the end of the day, we know that policing alone does not solve community issues. Policing does not solve poverty. It does not solve economic crisis. It doesn't solve many things. It doesn't solve gun violence. It doesn't solve a lot of things, right? It is more of a reactive more than a proactive tool. So how do we allocate some of those money into communities that needs it, into long-term programs? Because oftentimes the city, I think somebody put it in here that the city has a good job of like creating these wonderful, pretty policies, but does nothing with them. And how do we ensure that when we're funding programs and services, we're not just funding them for short term, because we have to consider that the barriers that are in place and the systematic system and barriers that are in place, that they've been in place for decades. So how do we now, it's going to take years to also dismantle some of those. So a 2-3 year plan of budget of funding something is not going to work. And I really think it's time for us to honestly hold our city councilors to their feet to the fire. And I think one of the biggest things, especially this year, with seeing how John Tory treat the homeless population downtown by you know, using the police as you know, use the police force in that manner, and even the police force allowed to be used in that manner, says a lot about how the constant abuse on poor people, on those, and wanting to force them into a shelter system. And I think one of the things on the poll here was around the shelter systems, and but how do we just create affordable housing and spaces for folks who are, who just needs homes, and those who are suffering from mental illness, that they can have a safe place to live if they need support, and it's supported. It's a transitional home. Like, these are the things that our city is supposed to be thinking of, and thinking about how do we help the most vulnerable folks. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you so much, guys, for your time.
Thank you so much, Anna Kay. All right, anybody else would like to go next? If you would like to put your hand up with the emoji, or you can unmute yourself and let us know if you want to go next. I see some really amazing advocates on the participants list here, so I know you're here. Don't be shy. Anyone want to go next? This is an open space, and there's no judgment, so we really want people to feel comfortable sharing their perspectives. Yeah, so feel free to put up a hand emoji if you'd like to speak. Come on, we can do this together. I really, yeah, I mean, if you're also welcome to do an audio, if you want to just go on audio, that's fine. There's no pressure to go on video. You can share your key demands in the chat as well. So I see some folks from Jane Finch Action Against Poverty here. If anyone else wants to go, I know Malixay, you wanted to go. There you are. Okay, great. Okay, so Malixay, you can go next.
I figure out how to turn myself on.
No problem. Go ahead.
Everyone. Hope you're all keeping well and warm. I'm really warm today in the sun. The reason I want to be on quickly, I want to also address about the city plan to increase the property tax. I don't support it. I understand, like one of the gentlemen said the same, say this topic already, and I want to kind of second his comment on that I don't think it's a great idea at all, because we are struggling, and especially our organizations located in Toronto, and we pay property tax, and we already barely had enough money set aside to take care of our budget, of our tax this year. So if they plan to increase, it's going to be really hard on us. So that's my little comment on that part. And I agree with everybody else's comment as well. And well, let's hope we can do something to stop them from increase the tax. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Malixay. All right. Let's see if anyone else would like to speak. Don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I do see someone from Toronto, I think Toronto Community Collective for Childcare, or Toronto Coalition for Better Childcare. I know you've changed your names a bunch of times, but would you be interested in sharing any of your thoughts on the budget?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Sorry, I'm going to keep my video off because I'm trying between all of this to eat some lunch. I apologize.
No problem.
But
thank you.
Yeah, this year's budget for childcare, we actually saw a small increase instead of a decrease, which is huge. A lot of what we are concentrating on really connects with the provincial level. We've had a lot of support from City Council this year as far as childcare, and of course we can always use more funding to create accessible, affordable childcare and decent work for early childhood educators and childcare workers. So much because Ontario hasn't signed the federal childcare agreement, so much of our current issues and concerns are around that level of government. We're the only province that doesn't have that signed. Some of the things that we will be looking for from the budget is a little bit more flexibility. And I use that word loosely because a lot of the time when the provincial government talks about flexibility with childcare, it's completely different than what we're actually looking for. They're looking for a different model. The issue right now is that we have ongoing closures in childcare, whether it's room closures or full program closures. So we're going to be asking council to have some flexibility, or sorry, the budget committee to have some flexibility in how per diems can be spent so that we don't lose any of our childcare programs. Overall, the presentation from Toronto Children's Services was great and was done in consultation with the sector. So in speaking with our nonprofit childcare programs and with frontline workers and families. Other than that, our major concern outside of childcare is transit, both for our workforce and for the families that we work with. Transit and housing, severely underfunded this year in the budget. So we want to be throwing, as a childcare community, we want to be throwing all of our support behind those two items specifically, as our families have been hit so hard throughout the pandemic, and our workforce as well, as a highly feminized, racialized workforce working in care who also highly depend on transit and housing. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Abbie. That was very enlightening for a lot of us here. I know we haven't had a huge chance to look at the childcare budget, so that was great. And yeah, I'd invite anyone else to speak. If you'd like to speak, you can say so in the chat. You can put up your emoji hand. You can unmute yourself and let us know.
SURJ, I was just wondering, while we wait for folks to volunteer to share their thoughts, if we wanted to, I wanted to help Beth contribute, just because she's been sharing some of her stats over the chat and I know is unable to speak. So there was some conversation about the crisis response pilots. So there's some funding in the new and enhanced, I believe, in the 2022 budget for the 4 pilot sites. She's put some details in the chat. There's about 8.5 million for community crisis support services, which includes the 4 pilot sites, as well as the ability of the city to divert some of the calls to 211 and 911, or they're taking the calls in 211 and 911 and diverting them to mental health mobile teams that will be resourced. And then there's about 2 million in enhanced community crisis response program as well. There's still a question of, is this enough? And I know that there was a little bit of talk yesterday in the budget committee with SDFA about this pilot. I know a lot of us are interested in this and really anxious to see it move forward more quickly than it has been. And they're just really focused on these 4 pilots. They're doing a little bit of work to invite other agencies who are interested in expanding the pilots in future years, but there's no funding for that yet. And they just want to kind of go with these pilots for now. And I think we're just all anxious to see more happening sooner, and ensuring that that gets continued to be resourced, but lots of people paying attention to that, which is amazing. And then Beth had also shared a little bit of info about property taxes. So there is some relief programs for folks on low income disabled folks, low income seniors, where you basically either can defer property taxes or you just can get them canceled. And in fact, so if you were to look at the increase this year for a house that was valued at $700,000, I believe the residential property tax increase would just be $93 or so for the whole year, and that would be on a property tax amount that's about $3,400 for the full year. So it's just a $93 addition, and then there's programs to help you to either defer that payment or not pay it at all. So that's just helping Beth answer some of the questions. If there's any other further questions related to specific budget pieces, do let us know. And then yes, we would just love to hear anything and everything you all have to say.
Thank you so much, Jen, for addressing Beth's comments about the budget analysis. And yeah, of course, feel free to keep asking us questions. And yeah, I'm just going to open up the floor again to see if there's anybody else that would like to speak. I see Diane Dyson. Please go ahead.
Hi, sure. I'll jump in. And I'm new at Daily Bread, so I mean, we will have a whole response to the budget when we do a deputation. But the one that stuck out with me was, because it was in the news this week, was the Fair Pass, the delay in the discount program. And I found what was really hard to swallow is that they said delayed because of the pandemic, because of COVID. And for me, that I think it just goes to the issue that government services are most needed during a pandemic. And so that's when you do not delay them. So for them to use that as an excuse, I found particularly galling, especially because I was there back in 2016 when it was proposed as part of the poverty reduction strategy. And here we are in 2022, still they've only done a very small number of people, and they've done the folks that they can most readily identify as low income. But we know that 1 out of 5 Torontonians would qualify for this. They really need to get their legs under them for this.
Thanks, Diane. All right, next we have Joy.
Oh, there I am. Maybe I'll stop being a silhouette too. This is a statement, but it's also really a question for the wonderful Beth Wilson, because I joined the group here today because I'm not very familiar with the budget. And so I come with a question in my mind. My statement is, it's about the issue of homelessness. And I think we all know that when someone becomes homeless, it is extremely costly to the individual because it is so hard on them and so hard to get back into a home. And it's also costly for the city because shelters and emergency services are much, much more expensive than permanent housing. So what I want to look for in a budget around housing and homelessness is where the focus tilts towards eviction prevention. Because if you can keep people in their homes where they are, it's much cheaper, it's easier on them, it's easier on the city. And so my real question is for Beth is whether she can tell us, where the are there increases in budgets for programs like the EPIC program, for rent supplements that'll give temporary help to people who just need to manage the budget, for tenant defense funding, those kinds of things that help people stay where they are and stay out of homelessness.
Thanks for that question, Joy. Beth, I'm not sure if you're able to speak through audio or video or any other means, but if you're not able to reply in that way, you can also share your answers in the chat as you've been doing.
I think she needs to loop back. She says she's going to dig up that info and get back to Joy, but that's a really great point that Joy makes around eviction prevention and putting the resources there. And then as well, I know that there's some efforts to put some resources into supportive housing to get people off the streets. And then there's the reality that there is an urgent crisis, a homelessness crisis right now that we need to deal with, that we feel like the city doesn't have enough resources to deal with effectively. And yet the folks at the city are saying that they have enough resources. So there seems to be a disconnect there. But we'll loop back to Beth's response to Joy in the chat in a moment.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so Beth's unable to respond in person, but just so everyone knows, if we're not able to get to your questions in the chat, we will send your answers in a follow-up email. And I also wanted to let everyone know, we had a budget town hall a couple days ago, and there were some amazing presentations on various issue areas, and experts shared their own budget analysis on housing, on transit, on labor and workforce. So we'll share those out with you as well. We do have a recording of that town hall. In the case that it can help you make a deputation and use any of that data to your advantage, great. So we would love to support that. So I do see someone has their hand up. Is it Deca or Deca? Please go ahead. And I'm sorry for getting your name wrong.
No, it's okay. It's fine. You said it, Deca. I just kind of want to piggyback right on the last speaker. I think it was Joy. I don't want to repeat what she said. She really, because I do work to support and advocate for housing. So I think that there's a gap. There is a gap, and I don't even know why in 2022 we still have that, because we still seeing people that are getting eviction letters like in the middle of this. I mean, like, it's just frustrating, especially people that are really going through difficulty to, so there is a disconnect when it comes to the way we're using our housing budget. There has to be, the committee that is dealing with that situation, especially when I'm talking about, let's say, TCH, for example. I don't know what they're doing. I'm seriously very disappointed with them. Especially like, why are you evicting a senior? Like, things like that. When I see it, I'm like, you're evicting a 70-year-old. I like, how is that even? So there's a lot of disconnect. People with mental illness, like, what is the protocol that they should be following? So I don't want to get into that, but we need to know how these are being used, because apparently it's not. Is there some additional things that they need to get the job? We have no idea, but I'll leave that to, I guess, everybody who's really passionate about this. I quickly wanna, Annika, you really nailed something she said. Again, I don't wanna repeat everything she said. I do absolutely agree with Annika, and I think it's funny because I was in a meeting last night. I'm from the 22 division, so I sit out as a CPLC representative in one of my community, and we were talking about, when it comes to the community engagement part of Toronto Police Services, like, pretty much there is no funding for that, but there is funding, a budget for other things. So I think moving forward with budgets, especially with Toronto Police, there has to be something, toward how something allocated toward mental health with the community, engagement, support, things that communities can do and collaborate with. There has to be budget on that. There's literally no budget when it comes to engaging with the community. Like, you're telling me you wanna make a progress, but there is no budget toward community. And so pretty much if Toronto Police wants to do a program with the community, there is no budget for that. So you tell me, if you don't have budget for Toronto Police to work with the community, then how are we having engagement or communication, right? So there is a lot of disconnect in that. And we actually were talking about that last night. But I know people will say, but there is always donation. Yeah, donation is good. It is extra. Charity is fine. But there has to be some, whatever thing. Anyways, I think I said it enough, but thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Deca. Great. So anybody else would like to speak? We'd love to prioritize folks who are not necessarily with agencies, but maybe with grassroots coalitions, community members, resident leaders, but of course everyone's invited to speak. but just wanted to share that. Please put up your hand or say so in the chat. You can, or unmute yourself and let us know. Yeah. I see Amelia. Yes, Amelia, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm with the climate movement, and I'm in a bunch of different groups. We haven't come up with our asks for the for the budget, but it does look like right now they need more funding to get to the strategy which they passed last year, late last year, and to have increased overall funding for everything in the city around climate, since most of the things relate to climate in the budget. Yeah, and it's just about trying to piece together everything that needs to go into the climate and making sure the city has all the information they need. They are pushing it down the road, a lot of what they can do this year or next year. So it's about pushing them and getting the resources that they need. They are increasing the number of staff working on environmental issues, specifically in a large way, but it still will not be enough to address everything that community groups are talking about around the climate.
Thank you, Amelia. And yeah, I'd love to encourage folks to share any perspectives you have on issues that we haven't covered yet. And you brought up climate. There's a number of others. So I'd love to give space to anybody who would like to speak today on any issue, really, and really try your best to share your key asks for the budget this year. And we will do our best to relay that to the budget committee. Put up your hand if you're interested. So I know we have a few seniors advocates here on seniors issues. So if anybody who would like to share their thoughts on seniors issues, please let us know. You can unmute yourself if you'd like as well. Oh, I see a hand. Yay, Janet Maher. Thank you.
Hi there. I'm just wanting, I know that a lot of the money for seniors, for instance, in long-term care and even other kinds of programming, home care and stuff like that, comes from other levels of government. But I think that the city does have an important role to play in giving leadership to a bunch of those. And I was just wondering whether someone like Beth or somebody else on the GIN maybe might comment on the value of asking the city to go with us to other levels of government.
Thank you, Janet. Great question. Jen or Beth, would you like to respond to that?
I can start, and if Beth has anything to add to the chat, we can bring it into the conversation. You know, the relationships between the different orders of government and the advocacy that the city is doing with the different orders of government is something that's come up multiple times, and it's something that we're kind of interested in, particularly leading up to the provincial election. So it's a great question. It's a timely question, specifically around seniors. I think we should, I'd love to have some more conversations with you, Janet, about what that could look like. That huge ask between the feds and the province to cover the $1.4 billion hole that's currently in the city budget that they're hoping to get from the feds and provinces. They didn't give a lot of detail in terms of what the specific asks are and how much they're hoping to get from the feds and the province. It's kind of a moving target, and it was a bit different from 2020 compared to 2021. But we can try and get more info on the specific asks and then get more concrete about the specific asks that we would like to, as a collective group, potentially ask for. But certainly there's, as we all know, there's huge gaps in funding and priorities and decisions that the province is making that's having a huge impact on municipalities across the province, and in particular in Toronto. So we're really keen to look into that a bit deeper, leading up to the provincial elections, and try to make stronger demands, and talk about the lack of respect that the province has for the city of Toronto and other municipalities, and how their decisions and priorities are really having an adverse effect on municipalities across the province, and certainly with seniors. I think you mentioned in a comment that we're seeing some investments in long-term care, but really at the end of the day, what are we seeing in the city budget? And then what else do we need to demand from other orders of government, because that funding comes from other levels typically. So, it's a conversation I think we still need to have more of, but I'd love to hear anything else that you're feeling about the budget, Janet, in terms of the impact on seniors. Anything else in addition to long-term care that you think the city could take on in terms of the powers they do have, or you really think it's really centering that kind of advocacy with other orders, and especially the province?
You want now?
Yeah, if you want to continue a little bit, that'd be great. I don't want to put you on the spot,
just
though.
For some of you who might have been around 10, 20, or 30 years ago, the city actually used to run a lot of programs in community centers, in libraries, recreation centers, also in lots of nonprofits. Diane Dyson, for instance, will know about a lot of these, plenty of other people around. Those programs were all kind of shaved off, 2% by 5% by 10% over the last 25 or 30 years, so that now you have all of these empty community rooms in nonprofit housing, in Toronto community housing and stuff like that, or sometimes they're subletting the space to banks and restaurants and stuff like that, because they need to kind of meet the amount for housing subsidies that used to be under the CMHC. I don't know all the detail of it, but I think there's plenty of people around, and I'd be happy to kind of begin to talk with people as we come up to the provincial election, for instance, about revitalizing called older adult centers, which don't necessarily, that basically provide a bit of infrastructure and a small bit of programming around programs for regular folks, things like falls prevention, things like some other kinds of fitness exercise, socializing and stuff like that. There used also to be several programs to shovel snow for seniors across the city. Those have all disappeared. And as I say, each budget year, they would kind of knock off 5 or 10%, so that now we have none of those programs left. And they want us to go to long-term care instead? I don't think so.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for shedding some light on seniors issues. And I think, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing what comes out in the budget to do further analysis on this area. I do see that John has his hand up. John, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, that's me, and that was totally by accident. I apologize. I will take it down.
All right. So do we have anybody else that would like to speak today? It's been really great just to kind of, or have this organic conversation and kind of come up with some collective thoughts on how we can move forward and influencing the budget. And we know that this is not the only year to do that. This is going to be like a long-term goal for SPT, and we're hoping partners will join us in that. So John, I see, is this the same John or another John with your hand up? Do you want to go ahead and unmute, John? I'm not sure, but it might be, it says, oh, different John. Okay, John, would you like to go ahead? Maybe you have to unmute yourself on your phone if you're on a phone or another device, because right now we can't hear you yet. Okay, it looks like we're unable to connect with John, but please come back when you can. We'd love to hear from you. So anybody else would like to speak?
Were there a couple of folks, SURJ, that we couldn't see on the call on the speakers list earlier that we want to just loop back to just in case they're with us now?
Yeah, I know that Elaine Lamb was one of on our speakers list. Elaine, are you here?
It's Minakshi. Can I go ahead?
Hi, Minakshi. Yes, you did go earlier, but yeah, feel free to go ahead because looks like we don't have anyone immediately. So if you want to keep yours to 2 minutes, that would be great.
So first one is I would like to support the seniors. It's not only on the long-term care, it's the seniors should be connected in the communities too. I remember that I think 2 years back, North Community House was doing a seniors program where it was in the communities. The seniors have been connected with the issue of dementia. I mean, they don't have family members or may not be the caretakers, but even the caretakers are there, but they have been supported by this not the community house with the issues and everything if they are going through. So it's one of the things that it is my mind. And the second one I would like, which also I'm working right now on the climate issue. It's an international, I mean, it's a global issue, and every country has been contributing for the zero waste carbon emissions. So every country and the city is responsible for that, you know, to create a safe environment, a pollution-free environment. So the budget, some slight budgets should be there to be invested for the climate change.
Wonderful. Thank you, Minakshi. So yeah, I think we'll invite a few others up. Let's see, does anyone want to share their thoughts on this year's budget, key demands? In the meantime, I'm going to ask Jared if you can actually post, there's a Google form that we came up with just to ask anyone who didn't get a chance to share their thoughts on the budget. So Jared, if you could post the link in the chat, that would be great. And we'll also follow up with that link. Anybody else would like to go who hasn't had a chance to go yet? Okay, so Jared just posted a link to a very quick form. It's just like the polls, but for anyone who missed the polls, you can share your key budget demands in that form. You'll have to go to the link that's going to pop up on a separate page, and it's just in the chat right now. All right, so I think everyone's gone who wanted to go. But just so everyone knows, you are welcome to make deputations on January 24th and 25th. And I'm just going to post the information on how to do that right now in the chat. So the deputations would be made to the city's budget committee. And there are also a number of city budget events, which includes deputation workshops and budget town halls that are being hosted this week and next week, and I think the following week as well. So those will be posted on our city budget calendar. So I'll share the link for that as well. And then if you are interested in seeing our budget analysis, our senior researcher, Beth Wilson, does a pretty thorough analysis on the budget each year, and that's also posted on our website. And you can sign up to get the emails from the City Budget Watch blog, which is what it's called, on our website. All right. Well, I would love to, I mean, I would love to see all your faces again in our future budget organizing. And it was so great to hear from you all. I know that it's really hard. It's very hard to kind of understand the budget when it's, you know, launched in such a rushed way, but we really appreciate having been able to hold the space with you all. And we will be following up with our sort of submission that we'll develop based on the budget demands that we heard today from all of you. And that we'll include as much information as we can on what wards and counselors you are all connected to. If you haven't shared that with us yet, you can follow up with me. I'll just share my email in the chat as well. Okay, amazing. So, and just so you know, you can also send me any questions you have about the budget, and I will ask Beth if she's able to answer them, and we'll include those answers in the chat. So happy budget, everybody. I know that's an overstatement, but yeah, we continue to be hopeful, and thank you so much for your time today. Have a great day. Bye.